gold down there, Diane. There's gold down there.
You're like their number one favorite guy. Because you won them cash. Hi and welcome to the tour report from Secret Golf. We are back. I'm Diane Knox-Bayliss. I have a new name and it's actually taken me a little while to get used to saying it. And I'm joined by Steve Elkington, and we're going to talk about the golf in Mayakoba this week.
Yes, and your last new name has a little kind of Spanish ring to it, Diane. I'm expecting big things out of your picks this week. Yes, we're headed to Mexico, the Mayakoba Classic, Greg Norman design, Paspalum on the greens. We'll be talking about that today, but real holiday spot for the players. The weather should be fantastic. Super golf course designed, as I said, by Greg Norman. Yeah. A lot of good champions have won here, Diane. There's a big, strong field coming out of nowhere this week we're going to be talking about.
Do you know, it's funny you say that about my last name, Bayliss, because we went to Mexico on our honeymoon and they kept telling us that Bayliss means bullets in Spanish. So we were like, they kept saying, oh, you guys have a bit of a scary last name. But I have to be honest, I feel like Mexico owes me something this week because last night I discovered that somebody's hacked my credit card from when we were in Mexico, and there's all these transactions, and I called them up and they were like, yeah, they all originate from Mexico. So somebody ripped off my credit card and they've been spending all this money at Apple and Under Armour and all these other places. So I feel like it could be a little bit of Mexican redemption for me this week.
You got shot by the bullet in Mexico.
All right. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Anyway, before we talk about the tournament this week, Elk, we have to go back to last week, and it was the Bermuda Championship. And it's brilliant that, 2 weeks in a row, you can see it behind me on the PGA Tour, we're going to have these beautiful, exotic destination tournaments. But you called it. You had picked Australian Lucas Herbert as your overall winner for the week, and he went and did it.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time handicapping golf fields, and it's obvious, Diane, that you go to analytics a lot. But I always like to think of myself, why am I at a tournament? Why did I go somewhere? Have to evaluate that. And, Lucas Herbert, yes, we've been looking at Lucas Herbert for years coming out of Australia, super striker, been on the European tour for the last couple of years. Had a tremendous season over there, second, I think, in your Scottish Open. But he had a chance. He was in the best position. I always wondered sometimes, we used to say, what would it be like if the money breakdown was $1 million for first and then $5,000 for everybody else that finished second? Would you play differently down the stretch? Mm-hmm. And the reason I picked Lucas last week, Diane, he doesn't want to be in Europe. He wants to play on the US tour, and now he is for the next 2.5 years. The point is, he had the most to gain, and he was the one that actually pushed himself to win that tournament, because if he finishes 5th or 4th or 3rd, he just gets a pile of money and he has to go back to Europe. He was able to push forward. I talk to you all the time about why are they there and who has the most to gain. And we go through the field and we talk about that. But I felt like, in my mind, the next step for him was to be on the US PGA Tour, and this was his chance. He comes from a windy part of Australia. This was a windy golf course. This was perfect scenario for him.
That's why we always say this is so much more than just like a golf betting show, because we don't just go off the stats, and so many people do. They look at stats, they look at past performances, they're so caught up in strokes gained and how guys are playing on the tour, these trends. But there are so many other factors that you have to take into consideration. And let's be honest, the Bermuda tournament had been battered. Well, it was battered by the weather, but it had been battered in the run-up because people saw it as a very weak field. I mean, they couldn't fill the field, for one thing, because guys kept dropping out. Alternates were withdrawing. So we had said, this is an opportunity week, and it's an opportunity week in many ways. But for someone like Lucas, who didn't have full status on the PGA Tour, and I mean, it's a life-changing week for him to go out there to cement his place as a winner and to lock up his card, as you say, for the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you did this on purpose or not, but you did leave out that I picked Hideki Matsuyama to win the Zozo too on this very show. And I felt like, well, he's the best player, the Masters champion. What's left for him to do except win in front of his own fans in Japan? And of course, he did that. And I'm sort of inkling towards a new pick this week that you're going to be, I don't know. Okay. I'm sort of leaning down a certain track this week as well.
I give you the Matsuyama credit, but I don't give you so much compared to Lucas because Matsuyama was one of the favourites. He was playing.
Easy pick. Yeah, it was an easy pick. But nonetheless, it was a pick.
You called it. You got it right. And, the SG Tour Golf Gaming app, I'm going back to that because even though you'd picked Lucas Herbert on the show as your overall winner, you didn't win any of the games on the app last week.
No, and the key to our game, of course, as you know better than anyone, is you have to pick 4 players from 4 different tiers of world rankings. I did have Lucas, of course. I finished 3rd in my game, $10 game, won a little bit plus. But yes, the key to the game, of course, is to get off or to make the cut. Otherwise, you have to account for an 80 on a missed cut, and that just blows you apart. And you well know that, of course, Diane. Thanks. You often pick guys that I wish he would play well this week because he had a baby or something. You completely go into the new realm of handicapping.
Yeah, but for last week, I will hands up and admit it, I finished dead last in the $10 game that you opened. And I checked it and was like, are you kidding me? And I laugh at me because I always pick my brother, Russell Knox. And out of my 4-ball team, he was the only guy that made the cut. He ended up finishing, I think it was 12th, 11th or 12th. But Hank Lebioda let me down. He missed the cut last week. All my other guys did, so whatever. But if you've never played on the SG Tour before, our games are open this week. This is going to be a good week for it, actually, because you pick a 4-ball team from our 4 tiers of golfers, and they're divided according to their official world golf ranking. So 1 from tier A, B, C, and D, and then their accumulative score is your final score for the week. So you want to obviously get the lowest. But as Elk said, it's just key to get guys who are going to make the cut. And that's why our show is key, because we're really going to go through the course, we're going to go through the stats, and we're going to give you some names to consider for your 4-ball team.
And by the way, your brother, we talked very strongly about him last week, had a very good attitude going into Bermuda, had an ex-tour player on the caddy on the bag, Willie Wilcox, and they had a tremendous week and finished 12th. So if you did have Russell Knox in the game, you would have been very happy with your B pick there, and that's what you had. Yes, moving on to this course, Diane, this is a very interesting golf course. Greg Norman designed it. I remember when he built it, I called him and I said, this is a fantastic golf course. Congratulations. And he said, well, why do you like it so much? And I said, well, if the wind doesn't blow, it's the most playable course in the world. It's very wide. You can see that beautiful ocean behind you. But as the golf course is built right to your left there's all these little caves and tributaries that wind their way on both sides of the fairways. And I said, when the wind does blow, I told Greg, it's almost impossible to hit the fairway because you've got these, you have to aim at one little creek on one side to keep it in on the other side. And we've seen some of our own SG Tour players win here. Pat Kazaya, Pat Perez. Takes a little bit of experience. But Diane, overall this week, the stats, we're going to start with that. You're going to have to be the best guy on the field to hit greens in reg, and that's not enough. You're actually going to have to be in about the top 10 of hitting greens in reg to win this tournament.
I mean, it's a par 71, 7,100 yards, so it's not a long course, and there's a lot of similarities to Port Royal last week in Bermuda in that 1, it's not overly long. 2, I mean, look at it. It's right on the coast. So the weather is going to play a factor. I mean, we saw crazy winds in Bermuda last week. They're not going to be like that this week, but I think still like 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. And you just hit the nail on the head. We've looked back at the stat trend for the winners. Victor Hovland is defending champion. And as you say, Pat Perez is one here. Pat and Kazai are guys that we know very well. We know their games very well. But it's that greens and reg stat is the one that stands out. But as you say, it's then converting that and making the putt. So that seems to be the golden formula this week. Distance is not going to be a massive advantage. And accuracy, we looked at that too. I mean, accuracy is always important, but it's not essential this week.
Keeping it in between the little creeks that follow along the edges of the course is important, as you noted there. Pat Perez, 70th in driving distance the week that he won, almost last in the field of the guys that made the cut. But yeah, you know, if you hit a lot of greens, let's say, and you're playing Wingfoot, a very difficult golf course where Bryson DeChambeau won the US Open, you could expect yourself to be sort of 40th or 50th in putting and still be in contention. But not this week, Diane. It's a combination of the two important stats, greens and reg and putting together, who can knock it on the green and make the putt. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking down my list, Diane, and I've added a few other little sort of secret intangibles there that I'm going for because I am on a roll. I will be going for 3 in a row, which would be unheard of in golf gambling.
It would be unheard of on our show as well. You just going back to Pat there, I just looked and saw that he was 7th in greens and reg and 7th in putts per greens and reg, and had an incredible round of -9 in round 3 to go on and get that win. We were actually with him as well. Just after he had the victory, we had arranged this shoot in San Diego with Pat, and it had been booked in for months, and it just so happened that it was a couple of days after he won in Mayakoba. So it was great to see him and celebrate. His dad came, and that was a really fun time. And Elk, well, you asked him what the key to the victory was.
So you won the damn tournament. We have this scheduled, hometown guy, San Diego, we've had this scheduled 6 months. You're coming down here to shoot a show with us at Secret Golf, and you go down and you win the OHL. What the heck going on?
I don't know, it's pretty amazing.
Secret Tour player Pat Perez grabbed his second PGA Tour title in November 2016, lifting the coveted hardware at the OHL Classic in Mexico. For Perez, this one was especially sweet.
It feels a little more gratifying, I guess, from having the surgery and then coming back and putting in all the work and then seeing it pay off. I knew it was going to pay off. I didn't think it would be that fast.
Didn't have any confidence at all, so it's been a really quick turnaround for him.
Pat's dad, Tony, never doubted his comeback kid.
I had my worries, but, he's a comeback kind of guy, and, you don't have any doubts when they're your family. I knew just by looking at him at the tournament on TV, I knew he was so aggressive, and the eyes told it all.
Yeah. If you can't hit the fairway, you can't hit the green, make the putt. If you don't believe anything you got in your bag, contracts don't even matter because you're not going to have a job for very long. I wanted to try another iron, and I tried the PXGs, and I took them to Vegas, and we went. I played great. I thought, God, these are unbelievable. They feel fantastic. They fly right with the ball. I'm putting them in. We're going for it.
Pat has finally realized that his swing is what it is, and I think he's finally come to terms with a few things. He's getting a little older, so, there's no time like right now to play well for him.
Why'd you do that? Hey, it's right by the flag!
People might look at him and think he's some sort of a hippie millennial, but he really loves golf, and he would play it every day. He loves it.
If you would have told me when I was 24 that I would have, been able to play 20 years on the PGA Tour, that would have been, especially when I got kicked off the team at ASU, and everybody kind of written me off that I was just going to be this mental case, and there was no way I could ever do it. And, I've had a lot of motivation over years trying to prove people wrong, to be really successful for all the people that don't want me to be.
Sky's the limit for him now.
That was a fun trip. Well, Pat Perez is playing again this week, as is Patton Kazire. Actually, a bit of a stacked field. We have 13 of the top 32 players in the world. And really, the headline name is Justin Thomas, who's number 7. However, coming up on the show, we're going to go through, we'll tell you a little bit about the favourites. We are going to give you our favourites. Then we're going to give you some names to watch and those all-important dark horse picks this week on the Tour Report.
The SG Tour Golf Gaming app, the place for you to compete and win cash on PGA Tour events. The SG Tour is a golf experience like no other, with games designed by golf professionals. You can play single-day games and tournament-long contests each week. It's easy to get involved. Join or create a game for you and your buddies. Pick 4 players and follow along with the action. And if you need some help with your picks, we've got you covered with our weekly handicapping show, The Tour Report, and exclusive content with our PGA Tour players. Join the fun and win money on the SG Tour, available in the App Store.
It's the Tour Report this week for the Worldwide Technologies Championship at Mayakoba. Elk, it's El Chameleon Golf Club.
For someone with a last name of Bayless, that wasn't a very, it's la chameleon.
Chameleon. Well, that's why the trophy is that massive chameleon. So that makes perfect sense. But as you said, it's a Greg Norman design, this course. It's stunning. It's a great tournament to watch. We've seen some brilliant victories here. Victor Hovland last year, Pat Perez, Patton Kazire, Graham McDowell. Actually, Graham McDowell beat my brother in a playoff in 2015. But yeah, we're looking forward to the action. We did talk about the fact that there are some favourites, and this is a weird time of year in that it's this fall season, and it's probably going to be the last time we see some of these big names that are playing. Justin Thomas is really the headline name. 7th in the world. He is 11-1 this week. Are you going to be picking JT as your tier A pick on the SG Tour?
Well, you know I love JT. I follow him on Instagram, and he looks like he's swinging great. And he's got, Bones Mackay on the bag now, so he'll be getting expert advice, of course. No, Diane, I'm not, and there's a reason that I'm not. Nobody in the world is more passionate about their golfers than Mexican people. And I grew up with a guy named Carlos Espinosa, and they revere the PGA Tour so much. And there's 2 names, Diane, on this list. Abraham Ancer, who won the World's Golf Championship in Memphis this year, who's just becoming one of the top 10 players in the world, and Carlos Ortiz. Now, those 2 are very interesting to me. Carlos Ortiz won the Houston Open in my town. He'll be there next week. I do believe in biorhythms. I believe players play well at certain times of the year. But Abraham Ancer will be the equivalent of Arnold Palmer going into this tournament this week. He will be celebrated and yelled at in Spanish back and forth. And I've changed from my pre-production meeting with you. Keep an eye on Ortiz, but I have moved all my chips, Diane, for 3 wins in a row into Abraham Ancer's corner to solidify in everyone's mind that he's going to do it at home.
Abraham Ancer and Carlos Ortiz both played well here last year, and as you say, homecoming event for them. They have always talked about the fact that playing in Mexico is just so special, and the fans embrace them. The Mexican people love them. I just said I was there for my honeymoon not long ago, and they have billboards. We were going to Tulum, and you drive from Cancun along the road and you pass Mayakoba, and they have billboards of Ortiz and Ancer, and they just, are celebrating them and everything that they've achieved. They both played well here last year. Ortiz finished tied for 8th, and Abraham Ancer just outside the top 10. But we always talk about the fact that the strength of Ancer's game is his iron play, that greens and regs stat for him. And I mean, it shows in his stats, and it's going to show around this course.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Ortiz's stats, and I'm not seeing as good a green numbers as I would like to see. However, I have to throw all these out occasionally and go with what I think is going to happen. And as I did last week, I didn't have any numbers on Lucas Herbert, and there it was. It was sitting in front of me all the way. Interesting thing, Diane, who is your pick? Because when I open your game on Thursday morning, I always think, well, am I going to beat Diane this week? When you change your avatar to your 2 dogs, that's changed a lot for you. You were right there for a little bit. Have you changed your avatar again?
I might have to. I'm a little bit superstitious about things like that, so maybe I have to. But I'm going a little bit out there this week when it comes to my favourite. And the other big names, Tony Finau, Brooks Koepka, Harris English, I was looking at a little bit. fine, great. Ricky Fowler, could Ricky really come and do something here? He's played well here before, almost won in 2017, the year that Patton Kizzire won. But my favorite this week was actually the runner-up last year when Hovland won, and that's Aaron Wise. Now, I've picked Aaron Wise quite a lot of late, and he's having a brilliant fall season. I mean, he finished 5th at the CJ Cup at Summit. Week before that, 8th at the Shriners. So had a great run in Vegas, had a little rest. When you look at momentum and form of this season so far, there's really nobody playing better than Aaron Wise. His numbers are green across the board. 7th greens in reg, 9th in birdie average. So we've already talked about the fact that it's going to be greens in reg and making the putts, and this guy's doing it right now. He's got a really good track record here. As I said, runner-up last year. He's made 9 out of 10 cuts when he's played here and carded 5 top 25 finishes. And you talk about the reason why guys are playing right now. This guy is on that streak of fantastic form, and Aaron Wise wants to get another win on this PGA Tour. So I'm putting him at 33-1 as well. I thought those odds were pretty good for the way he's been playing of late. So Aaron Wise is my favorite.
Well, I like the recipe you put together there. I always want to know what the focus meter is. Yeah. And it's easy to bypass JT, Finau, Koepka. We don't know what their focus is. We do know, however, what their focus is when they come into, say, the Masters. Of course, this is not the Masters, but there's not much on the table for them this week here, is what you're saying, I think, Diane, and I agree with you. Aaron Wise is an up-and-coming player. There's a lot of guys that are trying to sort of claw their way into the sort of the position, the prestige, that even a young guy like Zalatoris is in the field. Will he be able to get over this sort of word on the tour that he doesn't putt that well? Yeah, he hits the ball unreal. I mean, I could look down this list and say Zalatoris is going to hit every green. He's going to hit it straight. But will he be able to convert into the 10% or into the top 10 that week? And I'm giving him a no this week until Zalatoris. And look, this young man doesn't have to prove anything to anyone, but he's going to have to putt a little bit better, Diane, if he's going to be on our board more regularly. There
was another guy that I was between as well. And when we did our sheet this week, based on stats and current form, Aaron Wise actually did come up at the top. The other guy that I was looking at was right behind him, and that's Taylor Gooch. And again, I just think that momentum and form in this fall season is so important, and we've seen that year after year, because it's giving these guys a step up before January and the Tournament of Champions starts in Hawaii, because it's kind of seen as when the official season begins, even though we do have these fall events. And, we have big events like the CJ Cup and the Zozo, but Taylor Gooch he's coming off 3 top 11 finishes consecutive. And the only reason I didn't pick him as my favorite is just that Aaron Wise's stats are better, and when they have that form, they have that motivation, and then you dig into the stats, Aaron Wise is just a little bit more consistent right now. But I think Taylor Gooch at 40-1, again, really good odds.
Yes, you're hitting on it. As players, people now look down the list, who they're going to be picking in their teams. We have to understand, we have to think about, how do they putt? How do they hit greens and reg? Do they have a consistent striking game that they can keep the ball in play? Brooks Koepka is a tremendous player, one of my favorite players to watch when he's on. Has a tendency to push the ball or pull the ball. I just don't think this course suits Brooks that much. Dustin Thomas is a very long hitter, doesn't need it all the power this week, so I'm not picking him either. So anyway, but we've made some solid decisions. We'll see how it plays out. Now we have to talk about who we think is going to be hot.
Exactly. We have ones to watch, and we're going to really look at some high odd dark horse picks as well, coming up on the Tour Report.
Get in the game on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app and play 4-ball. It's a classic stroke play competition based on the aggregate scores of 4 players. Who makes your team? Well, pick 4 guys, 1 from each tier, based on the current world golf rankings. Want a tip? You need 4 guys to make the cut. Get in the game on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app. Available on iOS in the App Store.
Right, so this week it's the Worldwide Technologies Championship at Mayakoba. I love this tournament. It's always a real standout highlight of this fall season. And the field is good this week. I mean, we have a lot of Ryder Cuppers who are going to be playing. Justin Thomas, Finau, Koepka, Harris English, Shane Lowry. I mean, we can go through all the favourites. We've given you our favourites though. And Elk, I'm jumping on your kind of bandwagon from last week when you picked Lucas Herbert as the winner, and I'm just going outright and saying it's going to be Aaron Wise, last year's runner-up.
Well, this is what we do, Diane. We pick winners here on the show, and we're going to do it 3 weeks in a row, hopefully.
Okay, and your favourite, I mean, you're just so big on Abraham Answer.
I think Abraham Answer is the Pied Piper of Mexico right now. He won the World Golf Championship. There's enough big-name players down there, Koepka, Thomas, Finau. This will stir him up a little bit. The Mexican crowd will be very, very much behind Answer, and I just think he's up for it. He hits the ball great. The La Chameleon course that changes its color when the wind blows, Diane, and who hits it better than Abraham Answer in the wind?
Yeah, do you know?
Nobody.
He is such a good ball striker, and that's what we always look at. And I feel that the question mark has always been over his putter, but he's third putting average on the PGA Tour right now, so it's all heading in the right direction. Man, it would be some celebration if Answer was to win in Mexico.
Yeah, this is a great week for all the people you just mentioned, all the families that go down here. You're looking behind you there. They can stick their feet in the sand, let the water slap on it, and have a drink with an umbrella in it. I know a lot of my players that are down there enjoy this week. The town is awesome down there. It's a great place.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, we've given you our favourites. We're going to give you now some ones to watch. So we're kind of looking at the middle of the field, especially when it comes to the odds. I have no idea who you're picking, so this is making it quite exciting. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, well, I am picking someone who is coming off a win, albeit a win on the European Tour. It was the BMW Championship. Billy Horschel went over to the UK. He played in the BMW. He played in Scotland. He took his dad over, and because they get to play with an amateur at the Dunhill Links, and it was his dad's birthday, and he took him over. So Billy Horschel is that guy that he just seems to be loving life. He's super happy. I know that he's just building a new house just along the road here in Pontevedra, but I am looking at Billy Horschel this week, and he is 28-1, so I'm not the only one. He finished 5th here last year. He likes this course. He's taking that winning momentum from being in Europe over here. We saw him get a win on the PGA Tour last year as well, or last season. So I think that Billy Horschel, some good numbers, pretty solid kind of middle of the road numbers. Off the tee is his strength right now. So if he can take that, convert it, if he can find a hot putter this week, which we know Billy can, has for years been one of the best putters on the PGA Tour, I think this could have all the makings for a Horschel victory.
Yes, of course, you're right. Horschel is one to watch on any event. Sizzler pick, it's a little bit of a stretch. He's almost a favourite, but I'm going to let you slip with it this week. Won the BMW. He's been traveling a lot. I saw him at a soccer match over in England. So he's building a new house. Could be a little distracted. It's okay. Billy's always up for it when he gets to a tournament. He's a great striker. What's left for him? He's a FedEx Cup champion. He's won on this tour. He almost made the Ryder Cup. That was a little controversial, but not really. It turns out the Ryder Cup didn't need Billy, but he plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and it'll be interesting to me if he can keep that chip going just a little bit to get up over on this week.
The only thing I don't like this week are his odds, because I felt that his odds were going to be a little bit higher. So I'd had him in my head that I was going to pick him. And then when I saw his odds, I was like, I was hoping he was going to be around about like 60-1. But it's fine. We're going to run with it at plus 2,800.
Okay. Well, I know you're dying to hear my pick.
I am.
Well, when I think about this golf course, Diane, I think about who can play this course when the La Chameleon turns its colors off and makes it really windy, and who can hit these narrow fairways and keep ball striking its way around this course. We know what the formula is. Mm-hmm. This guy that I'm going to tell you has had almost an awesome year. When I say awesome, he almost was there at the US Open, led the tournament for like 3 straight days out of Torrey Pines. It's a power draw. And when you have a certain ball flight that you rely on, Diane, right to left is the best ball flight to play into the wind with because it has a little less spin on it. Left to right's not as good, more spin. I'm picking this week Russell Henley. I think there's some meat on the bone there, so to speak. He wants to get his name on a trophy badly.
He's been so close, you're right. I thought the US Open was going to be his, and it's just a bad Sunday. He's been so close. I think for the past year we've been talking about this. He has been so close, but you're right. I mean, the greens and reg, proximity, putting, that's what I think of when I think of Russell Henley.
And he's been through the washer. He's been through the US Open pressure, so that's not going to be effective. I like everything about Russell Henley. I like his game, but particularly this week, I like the right to left ball flight.
Okay, the other guy that I was just looking at there, who I was very close to picking, because his numbers are good on a course like this. I mean, his numbers are good in general, but he does play well on a course like this, is Kevin Streelman. He is 13th in total driving right now, 12th in greens and reg, and he is 70-1. So I think that there's got to be value in, a good finish for Kevin Streelman, maybe a top 10, top 15.
Yeah, he's had a good season, was right there in PGA, US Open, the Open Championship. He's played good all year. Good friend of mine caddies for him. Best, they keep their game very tight. They're always working on their weaknesses. He's the kind of player, if you were a betting person, Streelman's a guy that you can rely on because he's always, when he comes to the tournament, just young family, when he comes to the tournament, it's all business. They work together work on their weaknesses, trying to build them up. So yeah, Streelman's always keeps his game really nice and tidy. I used to talk about when guys like Greg Norman, Tiger Woods came to the golf tournaments, Diane, they were there for one thing. They were there to win. They weren't there to go fishing. They weren't going on boat cruises. They weren't doing anything else. They were there to win. A lot of guys do a bit of both. Streelman is all business when it comes to the golf course.
Okay. So we're going to go into dark horse picks, and the dark horse picks, the rule is they have to be over 100-1, right? That's my rule that I made. What are you going to say?
I've got one that's all in the 90s. Will that be okay?
I'll let you off with it. But the good thing about these guys is these are the guys in our D flight predominantly. Some of them will fall into other flights, but when you look at tier D on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app, a lot of the time you will find these guys in there. And Elk, that's almost my favorite tier to pick, just because you've got guys that they need a good week. These are guys that are lower down in the world golf rankings when it comes to the field. And I've been looking at guys in tier D who have been playing well and have the motivation right now. And that's kind of where I'm at with my pick.
You're right. If you pick a good D in our game, you're almost going to win the game because the ones up above, for the most part, you can pick some solid players that are going to make the cut, whether at ABC. So the D almost does always win the game.
But here's my problem this week is that Russell is in tier D.
Oh, that's excellent. You told me that. I would have found it anyway, but Russell Knox is a top 10er this week with the way he does.
He's had like 3 or 4 top 10 finishes here, so that's fine. But I have 2 names because I let's be real, I probably will pick him, but I have 2 other names.
I have 2 names too, to be honest.
Okay, cool, that's good. Because one of my guys, when we did our sheet, he came all the way up to number 6. And when I really looked into it, 250-1 for Tyler Duncan, who has performed well at this course before, and his numbers are really solid across the board. 21st greens in reg, 25th in birdie average, and coming off of a 14th place finish in his most recent start. So Tyler Duncan at 250-1, that is really good. And just had a baby, he's a new dad. So he's got all that motivation.
See, I told you. See? Yeah. And who's your other one?
My other one at 125-1 is Keith Mitchell. And Keith Mitchell had a really good end to the 2021 season. And he had like a top 10 at the Northern Trust, almost won the Northern Trust. He finished in a tie for third at the CJ Cup just a few weeks ago. When he gets going, that man is a birdie machine. So the proximity stat, and if he can get that hot putter, I love Keith Mitchell this week at 125-1.
Those are great picks. My picks, one will be very predictable, but the other one won't be. At 97-1, Peter Malnati.
97-1.
97-1. I mean, you can check it. I mean, I think they did that just so I wasn't allowed to pick him at 100. But
we'll round it up to 100.
He's one of the best putters in this field. We don't need any length this week. We know Pat Perez. Some of these guys have won this tournament. Graham McDowell. Your brother. They've all been there. You got to hit it straight. And you got to hit a lot of green. You got to putt good. Malnati is probably one of the best putters on the tour. He's in form.
Okay.
But Diane, my real dark horse pick this week is my friend, Pat Perez. If there was going to be 2 weeks on the tour that are his favorite, I've told this story so many times on this show that here's why I'm going to pick Pat again. He loves this tournament so much. And he told me he went to Japan, the Zozo, and he said it was so cold and so wet. He couldn't even swing because he had all the wrong gear. But he said the good news is I was putting like the greatest Ben Crenshaw. Okay. And next week he's coming to Houston. He's going to be staying with me. These are his favorite 2 weeks on tour. Mexico, coming to Elk's house because I feed him all week. He sits in the guest house. He's the happiest guy in the world. He's got a new baby. He needs FedEx Cup points. And these are his 2 weeks that he is focused on because he's going to shut it down after this for quite a while. And so he's got all of his chips into these 2 weeks. Of course he knows. Of course he won here. I don't know what he's going to do next week, but this week, he's my dark horse.
Okay. I'm just looking at...
And he's 90-1, by the way. You gave me 10 points on him, too.
He's not 100-1 either. But he did... okay. I mean, I would put Pat as a dark horse, even though he's a past champion here, just because of all the reasons you just said. But we know Pat very well. You know him better than most people. And it's a lot of the time, it's a bit of a motivation thing for him. And I don't think he's had that really in the events that he's played so far in this fall season. But being a past champion here, loving the place, enjoying this 2-week stretch.
Well, they think he's a Mexican national down there. They think he's, Perez. They think he's one of them. So he feels like the mariachi fans are there for him when he goes down there. So he feels like Abraham Ancer this week when he goes back. They love him down there.
Okay.
Doesn't speak one word of Spanish. Like you.
Like me. I know Bayless means bullets. That's probably about it. And Olam. Yeah. Okay, right. Those are good. So I'm thinking Tyler Duncan, Keith Mitchell as my dark horses, and you're all about Peter Malnati and Pat Perez. It's a good board this week. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. And remember, you have to get that 4-ball team picked for the SG Tour Golf Gaming app. It is interesting this week because you have to pick one guy from each tier. And the way it works, there's some real golden eggs in Tier C and Tier D. So you have to kind of dive in there and take a look and then put together that team. First of all, that you think they're all going to make the cut. And then secondly, the guys that are going to make some birdies.
Yeah, and it's easy to play. You get the SG Tour app. There's a little space between SG and Tour on the App Store. But I've opened up a couple of public games. So once you're all registered and you're in, you can go to public games and see Elk's big Mexico game. I think I've got a couple open in there. So we're going to have fun. We always do. And if I win this week, I mean, it's just retirement time. Elk picks 3 in a row with the trophy. This will be amazing. And it's all chips in on Abraham Ancer this week.
Somebody messaged us on Twitter and said, please tell Elk thank you for helping to pay off my mortgage. I'm like, wow, he's got a lot of faith in you anyway.
Well, we tried hard, Diane. I think the best thing we have going is we know the tour players really well, and we have a little bit of a feel sometimes away from the stats. And you know what? Hey, that's industry privilege. I was out there for 30 years, and I know a lot about it. So we'll take it.
Wow, what a week we've got coming up. So we're going to end Mayakoba, then go off to Houston, which is obviously your home event. And
I'll be bringing some very exciting things there. I think I might have a live show there with Pat. I don't know, or Leishman, or...
But Elk, the other main event is on Sunday. The new season of Yellowstone begins with the 2-hour season premiere.
That's important, but not as important as tonight, Game 6 of the Houston Astros versus Atlanta Braves. Diane, they're back at the Juice Box, our famous stadium, Minute Maid Park. I won't be there. I'm in Philadelphia playing a famous Tillinghast Golf Course, the Philadelphia Cricket Club, with my friend from Golf Genius, Chris Kohlmeyer, as my partner. Looking forward to being around that gem for the next 2 days in 45-degree weather, but I've got all my gear, Diane. I can't wait. I feel like I'm in Scotland.
I think you're going to disappoint the golf Twitterati, though, because when you were at the Astros game last week, you had a very, I thought it was incredible, your Astros shirt, and you were almost like trending on Twitter because of this shirt. I was reading articles on all these, like on golf.com, Golf Digest, they were all talking about your shirt.
When I did a retro line, I designed a retro line 10 years ago, and I made that colors for that particular reason for the Houston Astros. It was a throwback, Jimmy DeMeritt wore the big V's. It was an awesome style back in the 50s. And I had that one shirt for the right time, Diane. I dropped them on them in Game 2, bought the win in for the Astros. My wife saw all this stuff. I showed her, I said, look at all this stuff about them. She's like, is anyone left in the world that doesn't know that you're outrageous when you go to games or you wear outrageous stuff? What is wrong with these people? They should know by now.
It's so funny because you were always known as such a classy dresser on tour, and the shirt was perfect. I was like, people are just...
I delivered the V for victory in Game 2, and that is the owner of the team saw me in his restaurant after and said, where the hell were you in Game 1 with that shirt? So that's all I need, validation for my shirt, Diane.
V for victory. Right, Elk, thank you so much. Have a great time up in Philly. And next week, we're going to have so much on the tour report for the Houston Open.
Saturday is considered moving day, and you can play along on the SG Tour. It's a one-day stroke play competition where you select a team of 4 players to shoot the lowest scores of the day. Will you make big moves? Download the SG Tour Golf Gaming app on iOS now.